Ah, man, what a trip. On a boat in the middle of the Caribbean, enjoying life, seeing some amazing things, and being completely disconnected from the internet. While I am excited to rejoin the online world, I can't imagine that much happened. It was probably just Titans versus the Shock in the finals again. So, what did I miss?
Mangachu's got a mad health advantage. This is the first time we've seen that right there, and that is game. Mangachu is the Torah Lord.
Gave him walkout music? What the? Is this in the budget?
No one is close. The cart's starting to advance, a wrecking ball on the way, but I don't think he's going to arrive in time. And he will not. Reverse sweep, not gonna happen. The Shanghai Dragons, for the first time, will be your Stage 3 champions. They did not.
Oh, okay. So I've missed a bit. Obviously, with my weeks away from YouTube and the Overwatch scene in general, I need a little bit of time to get reacquainted. And what better way to do that than with a power ranking? I haven't made an official Overwatch League power ranking since the preseason, and you could watch them. If you want a good laugh, those videos were filled with so much guesswork as I didn't know a ton about the new teams and players. Armed with the knowledge that I have now, I'm confident that I can be just about as wrong as I was before because that's how this stuff works. As a quick reminder before we get started, this video is in fact my personal opinion, and while it's an educated guess based on the information available to me, it should not be treated as fact. I expect people to disagree with my rankings, and if you do, I would love to hear your respectful arguments in the comments. I love to read them and get perspectives from all sorts of different people in the community. Anyways, today we'll be counting down number 20 to number 11. So enough with the stalling, let's get started with number 20, the Florida Mayhem. At the end of the first season of the Overwatch League, the Florida Mayhem and the Shanghai Dragons found themselves in very similar situations. In short, both teams had failed. Yes, the Dragons failed a little bit harder, but these two teams were still multiple tiers below everyone else. So both teams needed a plan, and fast, in order to gain respectability. Now, both teams did the right thing in my opinion by basically blowing everything up and starting over, but that's where the similarities end. The Dragons had a clear idea in mind for what they wanted to do, and they were not afraid to open their wallet and spend on some big, talented names in the Korean scene. Meanwhile, the Mayhem looked directionless for the first half of the season. They picked up some players from their contenders team, got some cheaper but possibly talented Korean players like BQB and Swan. That didn't work out, so they floundered around a bit, signed McGravy, and then moved to an all-Korean roster a month later despite promising that they wouldn't. Staff has been signed and fired and signed and fired. It's been a complete mess. Unsurprisingly, you won't be seeing the Dragons for a while, and the Mayhem are here. They've lacked a true direction for too long, and they've made many mistakes because of it. It has just been a waste of time and money on their part. Now, they seem to be rallying under Bare Hands' vision, and honestly at this point, I'm happy as long as it seems like they have a plan. It's just too little too late this time around. Also, admittedly, I have very little knowledge of all of the players and staff that this team signed about a month ago. WGS wasn't the greatest team as far as their scoreline, but that can't say too much about the individual talent of the players. Maybe, just maybe, the Florida Mayhem have struck gold. But even if they did, I can't imagine it surfacing this season without a massive turnaround. Number 19, the Washington Justice. The Mayhem and the Justice have been inseparable at the bottom of the standings for the entire season. They started there and haven't moved an inch since. Maybe they just like being on the bottom. It's okay, we don't kink shame here. Joking aside, the Justice are in a very similar position as the Mayhem. Their original plan for the season failed, and they've spent a long time just trying to figure out their next moves. Most of the people who were involved in building the team have since left, and the people who remain now have to pick up the pieces. Unlike the Mayhem, however, I actually really like the moves that the Justice are making to improve. Is it just because I'm more familiar with their players? Maybe. Probably. But that doesn't change the fact that these guys have proven that they're worthy of Overwatch League. Of course, Ark and Sleepy, who were signed a while ago, are two very talented support players and deserve to be playing instead of rotting on the bench of two incredibly talented teams. No one is thinking that they're the problem with the Justice right now. But the recent signings of Loshish and Elivote have both surprised and excited me. First of all, I thought this team was going to ride with Jonas until he retired. He was the first player signed on this team. His head coach Wizard Hyung almost certainly had a familiarity bias with him from NYXL. It was pretty obvious that the original team was built around him. But Jonas has not been playing up to the rest of the main tanks, and I'm glad that they see that, even by just giving him some competition. I've been following Loshish and Elivote since their time playing together on Angry Titans, and I've always been super impressed by both of them. They have consistently been some of the top tanks in every region they've been a part of, and have a ton of synergy together on both AT and most recently Envy, where they're leaving behind a 16-map win streak, again playing together. With Corey and Otto proving themselves as solid DPS picks, and the meta opening up to DPS once again, the Justice are a sneaky team to watch out for. While they're not going to go anywhere in the postseason, I could see them pulling off a Fuel-esque run and making a 4th stage push. Number 18, the Toronto Defiant. Defiant have been an interesting team to watch throughout the season, because they weren't always this bad, right? They were actually pretty good to start the season off, making the playoffs with their O2 core and the coaching of Bishop, but it seems like the defining moment of their season so far has been Stellar's retirement. Looking back, Stellar probably meant more to the Defiant than we ever saw, because they were never quite able to recover from losing him. Because of this, the Defiant were forced to look for someone who was both qualified, could speak fluent Korean, and could be in LA the next day. Which was obviously difficult. I'm 37 was the best choice, but he was never able to take the role that Stellar did, and after about a stage and a half of floundering, the Defiant made history by becoming the first team to ever move from an all-Korean setup to a mixed setup. Was it bold? Yes. Did it work? We'll see. The Defiant are making drastic changes to their team dynamic way too late in the season. This feels like a Season 3 or later strategy to me. I mean, while they need time to gel and probably won't make playoffs because of it, I'm definitely not going to question the worth of players like Gods, Jericho Logics, and Mangachu, because, I mean, Mangachu beat Defran in the Torb Hammer 1v1, and Defran was apparently drunk during the event, which significantly raises your Torb Hammer accuracy. Don't ask for my sources. You know, and there's their successes in contenders, and Logic's being one of the best parts of the Season 1 mayhem, but that's honestly just overshadowed by the Torb 1v1, am I right? Number 17, Paris Eternal. Now, this power ranking isn't a tier list, of course, but if it was, the Eternal would start off a new tier from me. Because as bad as the Mayhem, Justice, and Defiant are, at least they know that they're out of it. These moves that they're making this late in the season prove that to me. They know they can't win now, but they're setting the pieces in place to be more competitive next year and the years past that. However, the Eternal and the next few teams are teams who think they're still in it when they're really not. Oh, but Dividing, they went 3-4 last stage, that's not too bad. Sure, against the Mayhem, Defiant, and Uprising. Two of the 3 teams below them in these standings, and one which, spoiler alert, you'll be seeing soon. The Paris Eternal have made 0 changes to their roster all season. They have, however, gone through a head coaching change and moved around all sorts of players on their starting roster. The only consistent starter on the Eternal has been Cruz, who started off strong, but has been fading in the background in a field of very strong Lucios. Gray has put up some highlight moments on Ana too, but just hasn't been enough. The 2 big names of this team, Soon and Shadowburn, haven't seen playtime in a while, and no one else has really done enough to stick out. As of right now, the Eternal are just 1 game out of the spot in the play-in bracket, but it's difficult to picture the Eternal going anywhere in the postseason. Number 16, the Dallas Fuel. Stage 3 has been rough for the Fuel. After an incredible homestand which energized their fanbase and the playoff appearance, their 1-6 stage right after has to have been crushing. Yes, the Fuel had a brutal schedule this stage, pitting them against multiple strong teams with wildly different playstyles in quick succession. However, you can only blame so much of that on the strength of schedule at this point. If you want to be considered a contender, you need to be winning some of these games, or even just a few maps. The Fuel were shut out of a map win on 4 of their 7 matches this stage. Half of their map wins came from the Justice. It's just not a good look. The Fuel have been a hotly contested subject for this time, if anything to suit their popularity. People blame Arrow for not keeping in time mood for their game versus the NYXL, Zach for continually being a just below average flex DPS player, Jane for talking trash, I guess? Hope you feel better soon, by the way, you've got my support. But back on topic, people like to find one person to blame. It simplifies your argument a lot to say that if X was there, then the team would be good. But while some players have definitely looked individually better than others, I don't think the Fuel's problems can be fixed by a single roster change. And for those of you who will inevitably point out Taimu versus NYXL, 2 maps where Taimu was feeling great about being back on stage isn't enough to convince me, as he has notoriously been inconsistent throughout his time in Overwatch League. No, I feel like the Fuel may have a team-wide morale and burnout problem. They look sluggish nowadays, like they're just going through the motions. And when you're the team being most heavily scrutinized by us couch analysts all the time, that makes some sense, but if you want to make the playoffs, and I'm sure you do, it's imperative that the Fuel shake off these problems and power through what is another pretty difficult schedule, featuring both LA teams, the Spitfire, the Shock, the Spark, and sneakily difficult games against the Charge and the Reign. If they can't at least go positive in this stage, we're likely to watch the Fuel slip out of the playoff picture and watch the postseason at home once again. Number 15, the Boston Uprising. Hey, look, it's the Uprising. Remember when I said we'd be seeing them soon just 2 spots ago? Wow, here they are. The Uprising actually find themselves in almost the exact same situation as the Fuel. 2 solid stages and a playoff appearance, followed by a recent 1-6 stage, causing them to slip out of the current playoff picture entirely, at least as of right now. I already talked about strength of schedule, so I won't do that again. The important thing to note here is that, well, there aren't many excuses left. If the report that Halo made about Kellex and AimGod having issues is true, then internal conflicts are affecting them once again. Fusions, like Cruz, has started to fade away after a strong start. I want to see more of RCK Sombra and Blase's Doomfist, but not much else excites me about the Uprising right now. They have a few bright spots and solid pieces, but if the support roulette is any indication, they've been having trouble piecing everybody together, and by stage 4 you should have that down. Now, it is worth mentioning that literally as I'm writing this, the Uprising made a last-minute move to sign Stellar? Wait, didn't he retire after stage 1? Yeah, he did. I guess he's back now. Cool, I guess. Look, I still don't know that much about Stellar. I only watched him play what seemed to be an alright break for a stage, and I have no idea what else he can do. I'm not sure where he fits in with the team exactly, but even though I've been against late moves in the past, giving Blase and Color Hex a bit of competition can't be bad. Right? Oh, you know what else wouldn't be bad? King of segues, by the way, giving this video a quick like and subscribing before we move on. Of course, this is a 2-part series, and my next video will be revealing my top 10 in the power rankings, and you don't want to miss that, do you? I would really appreciate it if you stuck around. Number 14, the Guangzhou Charge. The Charge have been very quietly putting themselves in good position to see some postseason action. After their 4-3 stage, their best so far, the Charge sit right on the bubble, tied for 12th place. They control their own destiny right now, and after their 2-5 performance in Stage 2, it felt like it came out of nowhere. The Charge will start off the next position in my quote-unquote tier list of teams who are legitimate playoff contenders in my eyes, but aren't locks, and I also don't think these teams have much chance at the championship. So back to the Charge. It's looking like they could be one of the biggest beneficiaries of potential 2-2-2 lock. You know DM? Yeah, the guy who wreaked havoc throughout the entire Stage 3 playoffs as Widow, right? Does anyone remember how Happy just completely styled on him in their match the week before and was a huge reason for their win? Yeah, that scares me. Shu has also continued to be a consistent performer, even if he's not quite as flashy as in Stage 1. However, I'm still having trouble putting faith in the rest of the team. Rio has been meh at best and just bad at worst. Hoppa has been remarkably unremarkable. Chara is there, you get my point. The Charge have a few good players, and then a bunch of players that I can barely remember the names of. Can that get them into the playoffs? Sure. Can they win a game once they're there? Unless Happy emerges as a ridiculous carry, I don't think so. Also, regarding the leaks about the Charge acquiring Fraggy and Bishu, I will not be commenting on it because no team has officially confirmed this rumor yet. I don't deal with rumors. Oh, hi, Dividing from the Future here. I'm in the middle of editing this video, and now the Charge decide to make this trade official, so let's quickly go through my thoughts. I might get hate for this, but I honestly think Fraggy is kind of overrated. He's been romanticized a bit over the last few months as the alternative to Sato, which does make sense in a Rhine meta, but now we're moving back towards Winston and Ball, and while I've never seen Fraggy play Ball, he was a notorious feeder on Winston, and Ball plays kind of the same, so I don't know. I haven't seen him play in months though, so maybe he's gotten better. Bishu was a pretty good pickup. I was worried that he was stuck on the Gladiators until he retired because no one else would pick him up due to his medical issues, so I'm glad the Charge took that chance. We haven't seen him in so long in Overwatch League, so I think a lot of people forgot how incredible he was in Season 1. We also can't forget that he is bilingual in Korean and English, which should help the Charge a lot with their multitudes of languages and cultures. Now, will either of them play over Rio and Hotba? I don't know if it's smart to switch things up this late in the season. However, something that definitely needs to be taken into consideration is the fact that both Fraggy and Bishu are personalities. Everybody loves them, even though they haven't played in months. And to be frank, personality is something that the Charge are lacking. I don't think this is the kind of move that suddenly turns the Charge into championship contenders, but hey, you never know. Number 13. The Atlanta Reign. The Reign are probably the most difficult team to figure out in all of the Overwatch League. Lose to the Valiant, beat the NYXL. Lose to the Charge, beat the NYXL. Again. The Reign have gone through the same process that teams like the Defiant and Mayhem are doing, where they've added a few new players like Dogman and Baby Bay and FRD sometimes. This obviously wasn't the original plan, but the Reign were lucky enough to go through it earlier in the season, and it feels like they have things mostly figured out now. Again, the 2-5 record this stage doesn't look great, but the big difference between the Reign and, say, the Fuel is that they played a lot of these teams very close. Their games against the Fusion, the Dragons, and the Shock all went to 5 maps, and they also took a map off of the Titans. It gives you the feeling that, on a better day, this team could have taken a few of those games. Of course, they have to shake off that map 5 curse, but everyone seems to be gelling together pretty well. Baby Bay's Widow has been low-key scary. Dako is still great, Masa, Pokpo, and Urster have been solid as ever, and any issues that are there with Dogman when he was first on the team seem to have been more or less ironed out. With the energy from their homestand behind them, and a winnable schedule ahead, I can see the Reign making a solid final push, landing them solidly in the play-in bracket. Of course, they could just as easily collapse and fall out of it completely, but that's just what I see. Number 12. The Chengdu Hunters. This is another team with what feels like a whole bunch of consistency issues. Yeah, you beat the Shock this stage, but you also lost to the Charge. You played the Titans close, but you also got 4-0'd by the Valiant. The Hunters are so close to greatness, I can feel it, but these consistency issues are holding them back, as well as experimenting with their new players, which honestly, no offense to Jiren, but please stop it. This late in the season is not the time. But with DPS resurfacing, the Hunters will do great, right? Well, I'm not too sure. Yes, Among is considered to be the best Hammond in the world, and until recently, Jinmu held that honor for Pharah. But that's not because they were actually the best, they were just the only ones playing it. We held on to every Hammond and DPS play these guys made because they were the only ones we had for a while. But when other teams started to do the same, will the Hunters be able to stand up to it? I hope so, but considering about how the Reign as the most popular team already seemed like an afterthought, I'm starting to doubt it. I'm expecting the Hunters to stay, about even, 3-4 or 4-3, which is what they've been doing. It depends on if the other teams in their bracket are able to pass them up. Number 11, Philadelphia Fusion. The Fusion. Gosh, it's so difficult to judge the Fusion. Look, in the overall standings, the Fusion are currently in 9th place at 12-9, a whole 3 games ahead of the 12th place benchmark. It would take a collapse of epic proportions for the Fusion to miss out on the postseason. And yet it doesn't feel like it. Every game, we're questioning the Fusion's ability to win, even if it's against a team significantly below them in the standings. What was once an electric DPS duo of Carpe and EQO have been overshadowed by others. Boombox and Neptuno have started to fade into the mid-tiers of supports, with not nearly as many pop-off plays as last year. The Poco Bombs are few and far between, and Sato is still Sato. He's alright. Philly fans like to blame him for a lot more than he's actually responsible for. Is he an insane main tank? No, but he's not the whole problem. I just look at the Fusion right now and I just get a whole load of meh. When I watch them play, I get the feeling that they hate to play GOATs. I mean, absolutely despise having to play it all the time. For one reason or another, the Fusion have for the most part stubbornly stuck with the comp, but I can't tell if they've really gotten better at it from day one. While other teams have been finding their styles, whether it's with GOATs or some variation of GOATs or somewhere else entirely, the Fusion are playing a style that I don't think fits them. And I don't think they think it fits them, and that just leads to a whole load of problems. Until they prove me otherwise, in my mind the Fusion are the gatekeepers of the Overwatch League. If you can beat them, you deserve to be considered a great team and can contend for the title. If you can't, you'll probably be lucky to win a playoff game. We're looking at a close to 20-minute video here. Did you guys miss me? I hope the long video makes up for it. Thank you guys so much for watching. What did you think about my rankings so far? What do you think I got wrong? Or maybe even right? Let me know in the comments. I love to see your opinions on it. As always, if you like this video and want to see more, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I make Overwatch League and competitive Overwatch content, and it would just make me so happy if you took a little bit of time out of your day to watch. Until next time though, that's all for me. Don't get tilted.